Joe, you're gonna be up first. This is the tables requirement, and the requirement that tables have to be a minimum of 6 feet away from other guests at the adjacent tables, or where you are allowed to have a physical barrier wall between the booths or tables. This is the one question we've gotten the most about. Julia, can you ask the first question we've gotten from our membership on this requirement?
Sure, Anthony. Let me pull up the questions.
Okay. I've got one while you're finding it, Julia. I think, Joe, at this point, is there a definition of what a barrier is between booths? Is there a certain material or other things that it has to be? Or is it simply just a barrier between where guests are sitting?
The standard would be that it's something that's easily cleanable, non-absorbent. I mean, a piece of cardboard would not work because you can't clean that. And I know a lot of people are using plexiglass, but anything that's smooth, non-absorbent, and cleanable should suffice.
Awesome. I think that's pretty clear for most folks. Julia, you got the next question?
Yeah, I apologize, Anthony. I think another question we're getting from our membership is, and we've seen some diagrams in other states, like posting or adding some sort of shower curtain or I say not physical, but maybe cloth barrier. And it's our understanding that that would not be compliant with the physical barrier. Is that the health department's understanding as well?
Yeah, that's the understanding as well. Again, it goes back to the ability to clean that and the absorb, and that can absorb.
Great, thank you for that. And then Anthony, I think the other question we're getting as well is the height of the barrier. How tall of that wall or barrier is appropriate in this scenario?
I actually do not know for sure. It's going to be hard to actually give a height. I mean, a rule of thumb would be that it can, the point of it is to disrupt any kind of aerosolization. If someone sneezes or coughs, I mean, is it in a position that it would stop that, the aerosol from someone's mouth getting over into the adjacent booth? So an exact height is going to be varied. I mean, how high is the booth? How high are the chair backs? Those things are going to affect it. So to me, it's going to be just making sure that it actually can, serve its purpose, which is to stop, the spread of the aerosols from one dining party to another.
Joe, I want to follow up on that one because I think a lot of people are going out and buying plexiglass and making the expense and doing some construction. Is it probably fair to say at least over someone's head? And so,
yeah. So if someone were to stand, I mean, this is probably not going to happen, but if someone at an adjoining table was to stand up and sneeze or cough, that needs to be able to intercept that.
Okay. So between the booth and the plexiglass, get to the point where someone's standing next to the booth, it would be generally over their head.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Julia, you want to take the next question, or you want me to read one off?
Yeah, and I think importantly too, when we're talking about physical barrier, are we talking about a solid surface? Seeing some questions in the chat about bamboo or a wooden, I think probably more aesthetically pleasing option. Do you have any guidance or thoughts about that as well?
I mean, the bottom line is, I mean, like, it has to be solid. You can't have perforations, holes. And also, again, the standard is going to have to be that it's cleanable. So if it's cleanable and doesn't have perforations, and I want to stress, and Anthony makes a really good point about, you're going out right now. We have businesses that are pondering, how am I going to do this? And I'm going to buy stuff. Please do not hesitate to reach out to your health departments and ask them, hey, look, here's either a picture or here's an idea of what I'm thinking about. Will this work? They're pretty overwhelmed and they will try to get back with you. But if you need a sounding board, try to your health department and see if they can't, answer your specific questions. But in general, got to be the correct height for some, again, what we talked about a minute ago. It's got to be cleanable and it can't have, holes, slots, perforations, and those types of things.
And if people could CC us when you ask your health department, that way we can get the collections of answers and get help relieve your workload, Joe, and your counterparts' workloads and getting consistent.
Yeah. WHA is a great partner, and reach out to them. And because again, it's possible the health departments are still reacting to this pandemic, and some of them are able to respond quicker than others. And some of these questions are brand new. I can tell you right now, no one has asked us about bamboo until just this moment. And so all these things, we're all working together to figure this out and to get you open as quickly and safely as possible. So definitely, keep the questions coming, but keep those standards in mind and just make sure that what you're going to do is going to meet that standard.
Joe, my next question is not as the barriers as much, but the distance between guests. Where should people measure as they're setting up their tables over the next week? From what point to what point? Is it the corner of the table? Is it the back of the chair to the back of the next chair? What would you guide people to do as they're spending time setting up their dining rooms?
The point is to keep dining parties 6 feet away from other dining parties, and one way to look at it, and it's difficult question to answer universally because obviously every restaurant is a little different from each other, but essentially you have to look at your space and you have to meet the capacity requirements, which will be important to make sure you meet those capacity requirements. And once you think you've got it set up for that, you have to make sure that each dining party is not going to, there's no one individual there that's going to be closer than 6 foot to an individual in another dining party. Generally speaking, that's chair to chair because that's where the customers are going to be. And I can't speak exactly for the back of the chair to back of the chair. It's going to depend on how you're set up. I can't, it could be middle of chair to the middle of the other chair. Back to back could work. It just depends on your table arrangement. The key is that when guests are seated, no one at the dining party A and dining party B are closer than 6 feet to each other.
Okay. Julie, do you have another one, or you want me to read off what I've got here?
Yeah, there were some questions about high-backed booths, so booths that are really tall. And I'm thinking about, just for reference, something like 13 Coins that has really tall booths. Is a physical barrier still needed there, or is there any further guidance you can give about about booth height?
I think that what we discussed earlier, I think would still go. I mean, if people can stand up and see over the booth to the other dining party, then you're probably going to need a little bit of a barrier to address that. But if they're so high, they're 8 feet tall booths or 7 feet tall, and someone could stand up and no, I have no idea if anyone's sitting next to me, then I think that would suffice. But I think most cases are probably going to need at least a little bit of something.
Okay, last question in this area. Then Sam, I'll see if there's any repeat question that you've got in the chat room on this one. I'll let you ask one, but some people have things like pool tables or foosball tables and video games 6 feet away from those from other games, or any guidance on what to do with those areas during this time.
So are you asking if Pac-Man and Asteroids should be 6 feet apart from each other? Is that what?
Well, I think that the question is, one, do tables have to be 6 feet away from the video game areas from a video game or a pool table? And then two, I guess then the video games themselves probably have to be distanced, I would guess, but I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, that actually have not thought of that. So I'm going to give you the unpopular answer first. I would recommend, because those are heavy touch points, and again, I'm going to give you the unpopular answer first. I would recommend those aren't used in phase 2. I think it's going to be hard to keep people 6 feet apart. I think it's going to be hard to, on your staff, just to disinfect those, what we call touch points. You'll see that term a lot, touch points. And a pool table and a video game those are definitely touch points. You can't do it without having your hand all over the joystick or the pool cue. So I would, again, this is just a recommendation, and I haven't talked about this with Anthony or his team yet because we haven't had the question. But when we're talking about a high touch point like that, it's going to be really hard for you guys to keep up on keeping that disinfected, every hour, or even with such frequent use. that's going to be tough. Yeah, we might have to get back to you on that one just because I haven't even thought about we've been focused on, literally the dining part of it and not the kind of the recreational part associated with the dining. So we're going to have to get back to you, but off the cuff, my recommendation is for now, those are cordoned off and just blocked off for now. But we'll get back to you for sure on a more thought out question with the association.
Thank you for your honest answer. Sam, give us one highlight question from the chat room, and then we're going to get on to the next requirement.
One question that I don't think has been talked about here yet are employees screening. So, Joe, would you like to go into?
Sam, we're going to come up to that requirement here in a bit.
Okay.
So we'll save it for when it pops up.
Okay, another one would be a question on bar tops. We know that the guidance says no bar tops, but there have been questions about what if you put plexiglass around someone at a bar top? Is that allowed, not allowed?
Right now, from what we understand from the governor's requirement and answers to questions, is bar tops are not going to be open during phase 2. We are still working on some clarification issues on these requirements, but as of this moment, I would plan for phase 2 to not have the bar tops with bar stool seating open right now. Is that similar to what you've gotten an answer from the governor's office, Sam?
Yeah.
Julia?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's better to think of it as a bar stool area and it's a counter than a bar.
I like that. I like that visual better. Yes.
Yeah. So for diners, I think is where they may think, well, we're not a bar, but the fact the regulation was meant to say bar stool or bar area. Got it. Okay.